All right, this is the final installment in our Poetic Devices series. I'm Justin Rempel. This is part 4, Other Language Devices. So this is kind of a miscellaneous catch-all group where we talk about all the other devices. It's not an exhaustive list. There are some devices out there that I'm sure I won't mention, but I want to kind of give you a good idea of all the basics. So if you come across any of these devices or terms, you kind of know what people are talking about. Apostrophe. Another term for this is direct address, and it just means that you're talking directly to someone or something. So that could be to a person, but it could be to something from nature, a plant, animal, maybe even an inanimate object like the ocean or a ship or the sun. It would sound something like this. "Oh sun, shine your light on me." It's often very dramatic, and it's a technique you find in a lot of older poetry. People don't use it as much anymore. I think a lot of people find it a little tacky or corny, but I like it. It's fun. Atmosphere. Atmosphere refers to the mood or feeling of a poem. So we can use language to create all sorts of feelings, and you can do that using all the different techniques we've learned, right? So not just the content, like what your poem is talking about, but by using different sounds, by using different rhythms, by using different types of lines, by using really creative and innovative word choice. There's all kinds of different ways to create a feeling. Enjambment. So when we talk about an end-stopped line, that's when our sentence or our clause just comes to an end at the end of a line. So in Shakespeare's "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" that's one line of poetry and it's one sentence. The sentence ends at the same time as the line. A lot of poetry works this way, but not always, and that's where enjambment comes in. Enjambment is when the sentence or clause runs past the end of one line into the next line. And you see it a lot, especially in free verse. And it can be used to create a bunch of different effects. Sometimes it creates suspense, sometimes it feels very incomplete or broken or disturbing, unnerving. Sometimes it's funny. Here's an example. "We were searching to discover what was hiding in the forest." So you can feel that pause in the middle of the sentence as it jumps into the next line. It actually creates a little bit of suspense and intrigue. What were we searching for? Where were we searching? You can't wait to get to the next line. Imagery. This just means that we're making visuals or pictures out of our words. So here's a great example from William Wordsworth, his poem, "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud." "I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze." So a lot of nature imagery in this one, clouds and flowers. It really paints a picture for you. Irony. Irony is saying one thing while meaning the opposite. So the most common place that we find this is sarcasm. And that's often used for comedy, right? So if you tell someone, "Nice shirt," chuckle, chuckle, right? It's all in the tone. You can tell from the tone that you're saying a compliment, but you actually mean an insult. Sometimes irony can be used to make a point. It can be much more serious, but it can be used in a variety of different ways. And it's found anytime where what you expect or what you think something should mean is different, usually the opposite from what it actually means. Onomatopoeia. This is just a big fancy word for language that sounds like what it means. So words like pow, bang, boom, smush, snap, crackle, pop, gurgle, guffaw. These are all words that are just made up to sound like what they're describing or talking about. Paradox. A paradox is a contradiction. So sometimes this is just nonsense, it's just ridiculous, or it doesn't make any sense. Other times it's really insightful and powerful. So the saying, every answer leads to more questions, is a contradiction. An answer should be telling you things, and sometimes an answer raises more questions or tells you more things that you don't know, instead of just telling you something to know. Personification. Okay, this is making things like a person, giving human traits or characteristics to non-human things. And we do this all the time without thinking about it. So these phrases will sound very familiar probably. The sun smiled down on us. Well, the sun doesn't actually smile. People smile. But we use that phrase to make the sun seem more relatable or more like a person. The words leaped off of the page. Okay? Words don't literally jump, but we describe them as jumping to show how lively and descriptive they are. The clouds cried rain. This is very poetic, and it's just describing how rain is kind of like human tears. So it's making the clouds and the rain seem more human by giving them human characteristics or actions. The leaves danced in the wind. So this is describing how the leaves are moving, and it's using a very human action of dancing to do that. Pun, the big fancy word for this is paranomasia. Just means wordplay. Usually this is for comedy, but not always. Sometimes it's just to be clever. Sometimes it's actually to be a little profound or to make a point. Sometimes it works with two different meanings for the same word. So a good example of that is this phrase: the duck told the server, "Put it on my bill." The word bill can mean two different things, right? It can mean the beak of a bird, or it can mean the cost of something. Sometimes a pun works with two different words that sound the same. We call those homonyms, or words that sound very similar. So here's a joke: a bicycle cannot stand on its own. It is too tired. That's punning on two different words that sound identical. The word two, the number two, a bicycle has how many tires? 2 tires. And the word two, which means very. A bicycle cannot stand on its own. It is too tired to stand on its own. So that's an example of a pun.